The Euro Yard is back. You can't get rid of us. And today we continue on with our reviews of past contests by breaking down the 1963 Eurovision Song Contest. We have now reviewed and rescored 7 of them, and for our past results, remember, you can consult all of them at theeuroyard.com and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We start with the basic information on Eurovision 1963. This was the 8th Eurovision Song Contest and the second to be hosted by the United Kingdom. Katie Boyle would host for the second of her record 4 times. The venue was the old BBC Television Centre in London, and they agreed to take this on as France either didn't have the money to host it again or simply didn't want to spend it, as it would have been their 3rd time hosting in 5 years. The date of the contest was March 23rd, a Saturday, and as we said in the last video, every future grand final through the present will take place on a Saturday. The winning song here was Denmark, the first for the Danish or any Scandinavian country for that matter. Of the first 7 winners, 5 of the victorious songs were in French, so this was a moment of change for Eurovision. There would only be 2 French language winners between this contest in 1970, and then it makes a comeback. Once again, there were 16 countries at Eurovision this year, all the same ones as in 1961 and 1962. It won't be until next year, 1964, that we finally get a new country in the mix. Finally, and we'll have more to say towards the end, this contest marked a huge leap forward in terms of production values. BBC decided to make the contest more television ready, using their studios to produce staging that far exceeded anything we had seen up until this point. There were camera angles, props, stage designs, and so forth. Every year we update our all-time scoreboard to show which countries we think are doing the best at Eurovision. At the end of the 1962 contest, Italy caught Switzerland with 66 points each, while the United Kingdom started to make its big move. At the end, we'll give you the new totals. Before we begin the review, a quick reminder on how we score the songs, and this year we will show you songs, if any, that we scored similarly from past years. We use a 500-point system which breaks down into categories and subcategories as seen on your screen. Some are weighed more heavily than others. In a bit, after our rankings, we'll show you the top songs in several of those major categories. This year we're introducing a new feature called the Deservo-meter. After a review of each song, we will reveal where it landed on the meter and ask one question: did it deserve its Eurovision fate? More on that shortly. This is a good year to roll this out because, as you will see with our ratings in 1963, and not in every case, but we had some very significant disagreements with the juries. First, we run through the songs in our bottom 5, which alphabetically were Finland, France, Monaco, Spain, and Sweden. Yes, sorry Spain, bottom 5 once again. I can't apologize enough. Anyway, let's start with 16th place, and this was Monaco, L'amour s'en va, which means Love Goes Away, by Françoise Hardy. This finished tied for 5th, but we had it in last. I couldn't get into this at all. I thought the singing was very tentative, and lyrically it didn't hit the mark. The tight camera shot for the whole song was also a choice. I think I know what they were aiming for, but not sure I would have made the same selection. So we light up the Deservo-meter for this one, and the rating is very overrated. No surprise with how much we varied with the jury, but your opinions may vary. In 15th, it was France with Elle était si jolie, which means She Was So Pretty, by Alain Barrière. This tied for 5th with Monaco, but it's way down here as well. My main critiques are that the vocals were up and down, and I thought the lyrics were a little cliche and repetitive. Not only that, but this contest in the early days was flooded with French love songs every year, so this kind of sounded like most of the others I've heard. With 15th place, the Deservo-meter hands France a similar fate to Monaco. Up to 14th, it's Sweden and En gång i Stockholm, meaning Once Upon a Time in Stockholm, by Monica Zetterlund. This finished in a last place tie, which was a 4-way tie, by the way. I found this to be one of the most dull songs in 1963, and while I didn't completely hate the composition, something about it just didn't work. Vocally, it was okay at best. On the Deservo-meter, we have this one right up the middle. Sweden deserved its spot in 1963. Its next door neighbor, Finland, came in 13th on our list with Muistojeni Laulu, or The Song of My Memories, by Leila Halma. I thought she actually had a nice voice, but this was a weak song she was handed. Far too much of the lyrics was the word la, and the actual verbiage was no better than okay. For that reason, I actually found it kind of dull, but not as boring as Sweden. She finished in that last place tie, and the Deservo-meter agrees with where the juries placed Finland. In 12th, it was Spain, and once again, they don't crack our all-time scoreboard, but better days are ahead soon. Jose Guardiola sang Algo Prodigioso, which means something marvelous. He kind of looked like a mix between Vincent Price and John Waters, which has nothing to do with anything, but I just thought I would point that out. I didn't exactly dislike the composition at times, but though it was far from the best. I didn't hate the staging either, but where this song failed in our opinion was that it never hit another gear, and actually got slower as it went on, rather than going for that big crescendo that would have probably improved my view of it. This song came in 12th on the night, exactly where we have it, so it's not a shock that the Deservometer has this one right up the middle as a deserving ranking. That was the bottom 5, and now for the 11th place song, which just missed. It was Germany's Marcel by Heidi Brühl. She came in 9th on the night of the 1963 contest. Lyrically, it wasn't very good in that it was a little simple. At least it was upbeat, and I thought this was one of the more enthusiastic songs of the year. But I feel like it paid for it in the vocals, which were some of the weakest in 1963. On the Deservometer, it's close enough to where we put it, so we'll say this song deserved where it landed. Into the top 10 and the songs which are landing points on the all-time scoreboard. With 1 point in 10th place, we had Anita Thalag and Norway's Solverv, which means solstice. This composition was okay, and though the song was kind of boring, she had some vocal range. Anita's voice was very pretty, though I did find this song a little too high-pitched, which is why it went no higher than 10th. She finished in a last place tie, and on the Deservometer, we will say by a narrow margin that she deserved a little bit better. We have another jury disagreement at 9th place, getting 2 points with Italy. Uno per tutte, which means one for all, was performed by Emilio Perigoli. Juries lapped this song up and put it in 3rd place, but we took a more critical view. And this is coming from a website that just gave Italy deux points in back-to-back years. The staging was interesting, but I don't think the song itself was a knock your socks off kind of number. I think it resonated with juries of this era because it was sedate, cute, harmless, and inoffensive. However, I wasn't too impressed with the lyrics, and while he sang fine, there were definitely better. On the Deservometer, we will call this one kind of overrated, because while I think a top 10 finish was appropriate, 3rd seemed too high. Now to 8th place, getting 3 points, was Annie Palman's song for the Netherlands, and Speeldoos, which means a musical box. The staging fit that theme, that's for sure. It had its weaknesses. For example, it wasn't the most engaging song in 1963, and the vocals were decent, but not the best. But I actually thought this was one of the better compositions of the year. The music was nice, but the lyrics were not bad at all. I gravitate towards songs that tell you a story or paint a scene with their music, and this one did, and didn't use all the cliche language that we saw in some of the other pieces of this year. Nevertheless, this finished in that last place tie, and on the Deservometer, we will set matters straight and say that the Netherlands deserved a little better in 1963. To 7th place we go, and it's Belgium getting 4 points, with Jacques Ramon's song Waarom, which is Dutch for why. This song was fine, and I thought he had a decent voice. Really, it was the vocal performance that helped it get to where it landed on our list. I didn't dislike the lyrics either, and as the song title was in the form of a question, so were many of the lyrics, such as, why would the red rose exist? Why can we be full of nostalgia? Why does our heart know joy and pain? My knock is that they were a little repetitive. He came in 10th place at the contest, and we almost landed this at deserved a little better, but ultimately went with saying it landed about where it should have. Up into 6th place, getting 5 points, we went with Vice Vukov for Yugoslavia, as he performed Brodovi, which means ships, and hey, he had sails behind him on stage. Lyrically, it was just okay, not horrible, and it wasn't the most interesting song, but this song's best asset was Vukov himself. He was a very good singer, probably one of the best in this contest, and he pulled off a strong finish to this number. Vukov had quite the career after his 2 Eurovision appearances, this being his first, and became a well-known Croatian politician and patriot. As you will see, he wasn't the only 1963 Eurovision performer to go into politics. Yugoslavia came in 11th place in this contest, and the Deservometer says that they deserved a little bit better this year. We've made it into the top 5, and in the 5th spot, we give 6 points to the winning song, Dansa Visa by Greta and Jorgen Ingman. The title literally means dance song. At first, I didn't see a ton of the appeal. I was thinking it had to be the guitar or the swirling motion behind Greta while she sang, hypnotizing the audience. However, I've come around on it somewhat. Lyrically, this song is actually pretty good, and it gets points for uniqueness in general. It was descriptive without being cliche, which is tough to do when you're talking about a beloved friend or partner, like the vast majority of songs seem to do. Greta sang just fine as well. It wasn't my favorite vocal performance, but I would call it a good one. That gets Denmark into the top 5, and we'll see in the next video how they did as hosts for the first time. Or will we? On the Deservometer, we would have called it a little overrated, but it was a good song. Hard to call it overrated. So we're going to go with just about right for placement, because we agree it deserved to be close to the top. In 4th place, it's Ronnie Carroll for the United Kingdom, and he moved down a spot from 1962. His song this year was Say Wonderful Things. I thought it was a respectable effort. I actually didn't find it the most engaging song, which hurt it in the end. And this wasn't by way of comparing it to his song last year, by the way. Vocally, it was about as decent of a performance as he gave in 1962, and ultimately, this one had a slightly higher score than that one. The competition was just tougher in 1963. I also liked the staging here, so add it all up, and Ronnie took 4th place with us. That's where he landed in the contest as well. So on the Deservometer, we're going with just about right once again. Now to the top 3, and the bronze medal for 1963 goes to Austria. The singer was Carmela Koren, and the song was Vielleicht geschieht ein Wunder, which translates to Maybe a Miracle Will Happen. The composition here was good. The orchestral arrangement carried this pretty far, and I respect that she sang in 2 different languages during the song, which was not really a thing at this point in Eurovision, but she did it well. My assessment of the song, if I have to use an adjective, would be intriguing. This song deserved a little better, as shown on the Deservometer, because this came in 7th on the night, and we felt it worthy of the top 5. Side note on her, Koren had an American connection and appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show years before doing Eurovision. She also worked with Cliff Richard, who will be a key figure in later Eurovision rankings videos. In 2nd place, adorning the silver medal and getting 10 points, is Switzerland, T'en vas pas, meaning do not go, by Esther Ofarim. She came in 2nd at the contest as well, and there was some controversy, which we will get into in a few minutes. The star of the show here was her singing, though let's be honest, the composition and orchestral arrangement were really good as well. Her range was some of the best I heard in the whole contest. A side note that applies to both Ofarim and Carmela Koren from Austria. Both singers were Israeli. They were the first Israeli singers to appear at Eurovision, though their birth country would join the contest a decade later. Back now to the Deservometer, and obviously this one will score right up the middle as we agreed with its final placement. Finally, the winning song, and for the first time we give 12 points to Luxembourg. This was Nana Mouskouri's song, A Force de Prier, which translates to By Praying. Nana sang the hell out of this song. I was invested for the whole thing, though the one knock I'll give it is that I didn't love the staging. Can't articulate a whole lot beyond that, it just seemed to be one camera angle and that's it. Very, very good singing nevertheless. Though this had no bearing on our score, Mouskouri is just an incredibly impressive woman. She released albums in over a dozen languages over her career, hosted TV shows, did concerts, and even got elected to the European Parliament. On the Deservometer, we're going to say this deserved much better. Now we turn our attention to standout scores in various categories. First, we give you our top 3 finishers in the overall impression category. The top song, no surprise, was our winner Luxembourg. In 2nd, we had the British song, and in 3rd, we put Switzerland. On the engagement category, again we went with Luxembourg in the top spot, but there was a tie for 2nd between Austria and Germany. Switzerland, not listed here, came in 4th. In the combined vocals area, our winner far and away was Luxembourg, followed by Switzerland in 2nd. For 3rd place, we had a tie between Austria and Yugoslavia. Finally, in the combined composition and lyric scores, we gave Austria the top spot here. Next up was Switzerland, and we actually had a 3-way tie for 3rd. The winning song Denmark, our winner Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. For the end notes, we'll start with the controversy. While the votes were being tallied, Norway announced their votes incorrectly because they hadn't even fully tabulated their own results yet. They were also not matching the song number to the country correctly as they read them off. They were returned to at the end, and when they accurately announced their vote totals, Switzerland lost the win and Denmark snuck into victory by 2 points. The audience gasped, and I'm sure there were some very annoyed Swiss Euro fans that evening, and I certainly wouldn't have wanted to tell them that they'd have to wait another 25 years. As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, Denmark was the first Nordic country to win at Eurovision. The United Kingdom greatly advanced the quality of the production, but as we will see in future contests, it would be a while before any anyone expanded on what they did. In terms of where we rank this contest, it's in the top 25%. As of 2024, we had this as the 13th best of all time, and the United Kingdom has several more above it, none of which have happened yet if you're still stuck in 1963 but are somehow watching a video on YouTube. At the end of our Eurovision journey for 1963, we wrap up by updating the all-time scoreboard with our new top 10. Switzerland has gone back in front of Italy by 8 points, leading the pack with 76. Italy now sits at 68, and the rest of the new top 5 are the United Kingdom, Denmark, and the Netherlands. France sits in 6th. We're going to rank all the contests, and you can check them out here on the Euroyard's YouTube channel. So subscribe today and visit us at theeuroyard.com.